right. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome back to the podcast. Here I am with, my name's Agape, and I'm here with Segolene and Vanessa, if you guys want to say anything about yourselves.
Hello.
Hi.
Anything else? Any fun facts? Give me a fun fact about yourself.
Oh my gosh, it's so late. I don't even know.
Well, you have children.
Yeah,
That's a fun fact.
I have 2 kids.
And Segolene?
I have 0 kids, and I am one of 6 children. There's
Wow.
yeah.
Nice.
Wow.
Are you the oldest or youngest?
No, in the middle.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm in
That's
the middle
a good spot
too.
to be in.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, today's podcast, we're going to be talking about marriage and dating with the outcome of children. But before we get into that, I do want to do a disclaimer that this podcast may contain discussions about sensitive topics such as stigmas and stereotypes related to marriage and parenthood. So if that may be a little too much or a little too overwhelming, I do recommend that you click off the video or take a break and come back when you're ready. That'll be amazing. I also want to do a land acknowledgement and say that this podcast is recorded on and offers gratitude to the Algonquin unceded Anishinaabe territory and the entirety of Turtle Island. Whew. All right. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay. First question I do want to ask is, have you or did you ever plan to have children in the future, or did you want to? I
Or
lost
in the
myself.
past.
Did I want children?
In the
Did you want
past.
children?
Yeah.
In
In
the
the past.
past.
Yeah.
Anyone who wants to go first?
I'll go.
So you go first.
Sure. So I think, like I was saying before, it's like it was up and down. At one point, like when you're young and then you're playing, like, you know, get married, or you're acting like you're at the altar as a little kid and someone's dressed up as the bride and the groom, then you're like, oh yeah. And then you have your baby doll. I think at that point I was like, yeah, it would be cool to have kids. And then you get to like teenage stage, and then the time when you're like trying to be a rebel at home with your parents, and it's just like, I don't think I want to have kids. I want to just live my life. And then you're watching those shows on television, and it's like, oh, the college life is so cool.
Right.
So yeah. And then I think when I got into university, I was like, oh, it's not. College life is not really like what you see on TV.
No.
Then it's like, okay, I think I'm done. I'm ready to adult. I want to have kids.
Right.
Yeah, so I think it's like it's up and down, right? One moment you want to have kids, the next moment it's like, oh. But I'm happy with my kids now. So
Yeah.
so
Just putting that out.
yeah.
there.
Just so it's clear, I love my kids.
Yeah. For me, like, it's interesting because I would say all my life I was like in my house, like, yeah, like when I have kids, like I wasn't like actively looking to have kids. I'm also like 23, so I'm not thinking about that hard.
Right.
But what I was saying earlier, like when I was younger, I was like, I'm gonna have kids by like, I'm gonna get married by 25, have kids by 26, so I can have all my kids before 30. Wild.
Yeah.
I was like, no.
Unrealistic.
And then I start to really, I think maybe it was also like the pandemic and everything, and just as you watch life happen in real time and watch it, I was like, then you start to really like think about it. I'm like, I don't know. I was like, I think I'd be a great parent,
Right.
but I don't like, but I'm like, I don't know if I actually like the commitment.
Whew.
They're there forever.
Money commitment too.
Financial, like, your life changes. Like, I like to do so much stuff, and like you can do a lot of things with kids. Like my mom, we always traveled and stuff as children, but like it's a lot of work. Like sometimes I see parents at the airports like wrangling their kid. I'm like, but like you're talking about taking your kid to Disney, like it's fun for them, but like the planning behind
planning
it
was
like
hard.
So I
Oh
think
my
with
gosh.
me, like with kids, it's more like more of like I recognize like the impact you can have on someone's life, like especially in their early years. Like, you don't want like, they're 20 years old and they go, I hate you because that one time when you told me like, I hated your shoes or whatever. I think about that every day and you traumatize me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's a lot.
It is a lot, right?
So that's something I think about a lot.
So you do kind of want children in the future.
Yeah, we're at 50-50. It could go either way at this point. Like, I think
whatever life throws at you.
Yeah, like because I have a big family, like I have lots of nephews, no nieces yet, but we're working on it.
Yeah.
So I need a niece.
You or your
No,
brother
I've been manifesting nieces. So I told my brother, I said, it's your time to shine.
time.
Yeah.
I know he can give me a niece because I have 3 nephews now. So I'm like, nothing against the boys, but just one niece would be nice. So I love hanging out with them and being with them, but then I get to go home.
Yeah.
And they don't come with me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But if you do have children, they got to come with you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's a lot.
Thank you.
I feel like ever since I was a little kid, just like you said, when I was 25, I want to have children, get married. I always thought that, but like, I'm going to stick with it. Maybe not till when I'm 25, but I definitely do want children. I don't know about now. I don't know, because my plan was to have it at like age 20, 21, which I'm 20. So that's not happening, but I definitely do want children in the future. I was just thinking about it. Like, I had this really deep conversation with myself because I just talked to myself, and I was like,
we all do. Yeah, we all do. Don't worry about that. Yeah.
And I was really thinking, I was like, whoa, like, I want to live my life. Like, I want to travel without having, because me and my sister, she just had a kid, a little boy. His name is Zion.
That's nice.
And we're planning to travel, and like, they got to put in all these like expenses for the baby, and also like think about, oh, what's the baby gonna do? I gotta bring diapers, I gotta bring nappies, and like, I just want to live, like, I just want to enjoy my life, and then maybe have a baby later on. So very different from my mindset back then, but yeah, like you said, it's very much up and down. And also, I would love, the most ideal situation is that I'm married and I do have children. I would love that. I definitely don't think that I'd be able to handle with children without help from like an external factor, like a husband. So what do you guys think? Would you like to be married?
I'm married.
Well, I know.
I'm married, and
I need to start phrasing my questions.
That's all right. Yeah. I'm married, and I don't think I'd be able to parent without my partner.
It's definitely possible.
Everyone's different though. There are like warriors, troopers out there that like have kids and they're doing it. Like, praises to you. But for me, I don't think I can. I mean, I wouldn't be able to be here if I didn't have my partner there to watch the kids, and it's late, right? So I mean, I think having that extra person to support me, especially in terms of my dreams, like, I always thought when I was younger, like, my dreams are going to stop right after I have kids. But when you have someone who supports you, then you can continue. It doesn't matter, right? So for me now, my perspective is, even if I'm turning 90, I'm still going for my dreams, because at least with this person beside me, I can still make it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and like, it's always good to have a like support, like in terms of the kids, like
it takes a village.
Yeah, it's not even just your partner, right? If you
family,
have
friends,
because like, you know, you come home from work, you only have like a couple of hours within the windows before you have to get them to bed, so you're pretty much, you know, meal prepping, so getting them ready for bed, bathing, you're tag teaming, right? I mean, that's in our household, that's what we're doing, right? And in order for you to have enough alone time for yourself, but if you're on your own, it's kind of difficult, like days if he's not around and it's just me, or vice versa, right? You spend a lot of time with the kids, and then at the end of the day, you're pooped, you're ready to go to bed, right? So it's good to have another person to support.
Like that's kind of, for me, like, I wouldn't, if especially I don't think I would do it alone, like, not willingly, or not like like, you know what I mean, like, if, you know, if life happens, it happens, but no, not willingly, because I like, obviously, like, I have a really big family and they would definitely be there for me, but it'd be nice to have someone who's like actually there, like all the time, like, you know what, maybe my mom's nice enough that maybe she'd be like, oh, like, let me move in with you, but like, nah, we're not doing that. Sorry, Maddie. So I wish my mom lived with me. I'm still begging her to live with me. So I mean, she came for my first child, she came for 6 months and stayed with me, and then for my second child, it was 3 months. But the support that you get from any family member, if they're able to do it and support you, you get to sleep. Like, it's not easy waking up every 2 hours to feed a child, especially if you're breastfeeding. It's not easy, but if you have someone to kind of be there to support you through it, it's amazing, and you learn so much, like so much. Like, I was well taken care of, and I think my partner was able to sleep, right? If she wasn't, there was no way, right? Exactly.
So
I guess you get the wisdom and maybe some tips and tricks about how they used to get you to fall asleep and stuff. So there's definitely some pros.
And you know what? I just have to say, like, kudos to all the single parents out there. It's hard. My mom did it for a very long time, and she's the strongest woman I know in my entire life.
Kudos to Agape's mom.
3 children, all by herself. That's crazy.
Like, that's a lot of work.
I love you, Mom. And you know, we turned out amazing. So clearly she was doing something right, but that's besides the point. I definitely would like to be married, like I said before. But obviously, you know, there's some people out there who choose willingly to have a husband or a wife or any other thing without children. So why do you think some reasons that someone might choose that pathway? Any reasons
to not have children or have children?
To not have children, but to be married.
I think it's because, like, yeah, like I said, they're like, first of all, in this economy, things are very expensive.
Yeah.
Have you seen how much diapers cost? I was like,
I would buy like a
like,
goodie basket, right? And these things are
wipes. Buy those.
Wipes are expensive.
Yeah.
Like, so this is like when I went for my sister's baby shower, I was like, oh, like, what am I gonna get her? I looked at
Diaper.
the baby. I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
I said we're gonna have to settle for like some baby socks.
Yeah. Even clothes,
and like a blanket, and that stuff was like $30-$50. Like,
yeah, it's expensive.
It's a lot.
I think like prior to having kids, I was like, oh, what will I buy? But now I know it's either I'm buying you wipes, I'm buying you diapers, bottles, like the essentials. That's what they need because they run out. Or
they grow out of it.
Clothes,
they grow out of it in 1 month.
Yeah.
And sometimes you like, again, like lifestyle change. Some people don't want to change their lifestyle, which I 100% respect. It's like, you want to be able to do this and do that, and honestly, and sometimes some people just don't have a calling to be a parent. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of energy. It's a selfless act, honestly. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're doing something because you're not, for the most part, at least you shouldn't be doing it for, well, you kind of do it for yourself, but in theory you should be doing it for them. So it's a selfless act, and like, sometimes like you can raise a kid and you can do what you think is right, and then maybe they don't want to talk to you anymore, they don't like you, or you just don't talk, like, you know what I mean? So it's it's an investment, and like there's no guaranteed return. Like, I think sometimes people, and maybe that's a cultural thing, like especially within my culture, it's like you have kids, and then so that when your kids are grown up, they'll repay you, but you don't owe them anything. Remember that, like your kid can just leave and be like, I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah.
Which different conversation for
another day.
That's a big one.
It is
so
a big
sometimes
one,
people do have kids with the expectation of like getting something in return when you shouldn't, right? Like, they don't owe you anything. Like,
exactly.
So it's a selfless act. So
very much so.
I think you also, like, when you think about trauma too for people, right? There's some people that they haven't had the best upbringing, the people that they would expect to, provide them with that education or grooming, I guess, in regards to, how to be a good parent, quote unquote. That didn't happen for them. So the fear that, okay, if I end up, having a child, maybe the possibility is I'm not going to be a good parent.
Generational
trauma, or even it's not in them, like their system to have that child, because it's like, okay, the upbringing wasn't the greatest. Why am I going to put myself in I just want to live life. I've struggled so much throughout my life. What's the point of putting myself through more struggle and pain and heartache, right? So I think that sometimes that plays a role in terms of trauma for some people. And then it can be on the flip side where people are like, you know what, I want to be a better parent than my parents, so I do want to have kids because I want to break that. Yeah,
those are really, really good ideas, really good topics that you guys brought up. Also, if we want to flip it around, why do you think some people would choose to have children but not be married? Any reasons?
Well, some people just don't believe in the institution of
marriage,
right? Like, if you really look at it at its core, like, marriage was, as like back in the day, like you're basically just being sold off to like a man, right? Like, you couldn't do anything, like he owns you, like you're not really like a person, right? So that too. And I also don't think you need to necessarily be married. I don't think you need to be married to have to be able to like raise children or in like a good home. Like, there are lots of people who just weren't meant to be together but are great parents and co-parents. So I think that's what really matters. So and sometimes people just don't care, or like, weddings are expensive.
They are
divorce costs a lot.
Divorces are expensive. I was gonna say that divorces are expensive.
So why waste it?
So some people just don't see the point of marriage. They just don't really care for it. Or it's just not a need for them, right?
Yeah, it's not a necessity.
It's not really an indication of love.
And I think like historically it was just like you have to, right? But now I think people are breaking away from like, no, you don't determine what I should do and how I should do it. I'm my own adult, and people are able to, I guess, agree and say, hey, you know what, this is how I want to move forward with our relationship, and agree to that and are fine with that. So I think, like you said, the institution of marriage and how it's like, the expectation that would happen, it's now kind of like people are like, yeah, on that, I'm not. Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
because when you think about queer relationships, like people couldn't even like a lot of up until like a decade ago, like they couldn't even get married in a lot of places, right?
Yeah.
Like, and in some countries it's still not legal, right? So some people don't even have the option to be married,
right,
or even have like adopt children, right? Which again, like, is very unfortunate. So some people don't even have the opportunity to get married.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And
so,
then sorry,
no,
yeah, and for some, who in queer relationships where they live in certain areas where they are able to get married, right? They use that opportunity because, of course, why wouldn't you, right?
Yeah.
So,
but even so, it's very often like stigmatized, even just
that's
the
true.
fact that that's happening. So it's really hard out here. But I really like how you brought up the historic part with how like most cultures really tie in marriage and parenthood as one must be with the other, right?
Yep.
So how do you think these historical or cultural moments or expectations have influenced your ideas of having children and being married at the same time?
I think that influenced obviously like my upbringing. So like I think that's where like my idea of like, oh, I'm gonna get married and I'm gonna have kids and then we're gonna live in a house. But like I think honestly, I think another thing is like a lot of the things that we were like promised growing up don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Especially like people my age, like who's
Yeah.
buying a house? Nobody can buy a house. I mean, like, you know what I mean? So it's like, when you think of that, or like, when you're young, you're like, oh, I'm gonna go to university, and if I go to university, I'm gonna get a good
get a job.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not even guaranteed. A good job after graduation is not guaranteed. So it kind of like, it almost like just threw away everything I thought of like how I thought life would be, and it's like, oh, it's not like that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think so maybe that maybe a little bit radical, where I'm like, you know what? Like, honestly, like, let's just do whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
So I was going on a tangent. I don't even know what I was trying to say, but I think I was saying like, so I think my childhood kind of made me like the culture, the way I was raised was like, oh, okay, this and this and this is gonna happen. So I think that's what formed my thing. But like I was saying, like the way life has actually played out, I'm like, it makes you like rethink how you want like how you want to live your life. So
I think the world we live in now, I don't know, maybe this circle I'm in, it's a little bit easier, though I've married, but I think not everybody is in the same like position of, oh, I'm married. And so I think now it's kind of like whether you decide to get married or you don't deserve, like it doesn't really matter. Who cares? Some people have kids, some people decide that they're not gonna have kids.
Very much normalized
now.
Yeah.
But I would say like when I was growing up, it was like everybody I knew was getting married. So the expectation was high at that time. It's like, no, you don't want to be teenage pregnancy. That's a no. Yeah, now it's kind of like, okay, the person's pregnant now, so what's the plan at this point? You don't want to kick them to the curb, like no,
it's just like, okay, like, you just kind of move forward.
Exactly. My mom's always like, oh, if they have a kid, is a blessing. Where you gonna go?
It is a blessing.
Where you gonna? You can't throw them on the street.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. I feel like for me, I've obviously with my culture, I've definitely grown up like you must have children after you're married. Like there is no way. Like what are you doing not having children after your marriage is definitely like a very big idea out there that like even if I go to a church and I'm married, everyone is going to be asking like, where's your children?
Oh my god, that's like the famous question at a wedding.
Exactly.
Oh, so where are the children? I'm like, the wedding was 5 minutes ago.
Literally.
It doesn't
like,
stop.
Can you give it a little time? Like even if I don't want children, I'm definitely gonna be judged on that. And that's very much like changed my mindset to the fact like even if I don't want children, I'm gonna have to provide children, and it's not good, like that's not a good mindset to have. But now I'm kind of like accustomed to it. Now I can't imagine being married without children, and I feel like that's a bad image for me to have. Like that's a bad idea for me to have. But unfortunately, that's
and some people should not be parents.
Some people should not be parents.
It's
and
true.
And they had kids because they felt like that's what they had to do. And I kind of talk about that in our other episode about religion. Make sure you listen to that. Where like you just had to do it, and like some people just had no business having kids. Zero, none. They would have been probably happier, and they know that, and they're like, oh, like I shouldn't have done that, but that's kind of the expectation we society had put on people. So you don't have to do that. Women can work. They don't need a man to get a house or have a mortgage or do whatever. Like you're your own person.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. Times have very much changed. And things are more normalized now. So I think we need to give that to the aunties and the uncles who are still living in 1980, whatever. They're still living there. So
the unrealistic times.
Unrealistic times.
Honestly, it's tough out here. There's no way you're gonna be like. Sometimes they'll be like, oh, so now you have 2. So when is the 3rd one coming? I'm like, excuse me, I'm done.
Yeah.
All right. I think we've pretty much already covered this question, but I'm just going to ask it because whatever. But I'm going to ask, do you believe that having children after marriage should be expected, optional, or non-essential?
People need to learn to mind their business. That's what
they
need to do.
Quote
like,
that.
you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, what if you ask someone, they're like, oh, like I can't have children, like I'm infertile. What would you, you know what? An auntie's response would be like, you need to pray about it.
And that's
Come
exactly
to
what
church,
they
and we'll figure it out. That's exactly what they say.
We'll lay hands on you.
That's actually exactly what they would say.
And then, then they would, if you do somehow, they'd be like, see, she came to church and watch. She can have kids now. But in theory, people just need to mind their own business and worry about themselves. And like I said, it's too expensive. So unless you're coughing up, they used to say it was like $250,000 to raise a kid. What is that plus inflation? Like that's probably like $500,000 or if not more than that. Like
much more.
Groceries?
Ooh.
Have you been to a grocery store
expensive
recently?
right now? Oh my goodness!
I used to be $50 for me, one person. That was many years ago. My friend, it's like close to like $1,000 a month.
I spend $400 a month just on myself and groceries, and they don't even last.
They don't
the
last.
Produce is terrible. Like I'll buy strawberries. Like day 3, there's white
no,
stuff.
I
in
agree
it.
with
like,
you. I definitely agree with you. Why is
a
what's it called? A basket of chicken, 10 drumsticks, $15.
Yeah.
What is that?
I also shop at Loblaws, so it's not
more
expensive.
I think you need
to
get a
Galen or Gail Weston, I'm not happy with you.
And we be going to Costco too, and it's like you gotta buy in bulk. And it's like, or else you're just wasting your money. Oh.
Yeah.
Food is expensive. But anyways, let's tie into our second question, which is kind of like a flip side of what I asked before. Do you believe that marriage should be a prerequisite for having children? Why or why not?
You know what I think the prerequisite for children should be?
To be ready.
Yes.
Yeah.
And someone who actually wants them, someone who's nice, someone who has good intentions. That's what a prerequisite is.
Someone who has money.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We gotta be real. Money.
Be able to provide a loving home.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, money, sometimes, things happen. Sometimes people can't, especially with how things are expensive. You may not be able to, buy them all the new toys and stuff.
Exactly.
But I think, when someone grows up, they're not going to be like, my mom didn't get me.
Right.
What do
as long
kids
as you
play
show
these
them
days? Like Roblox
love.
or whatever? I don't know. My mom didn't get me Roblox.
Robux.
Whatever. Yeah. They'll be like,
Nintendo Switch.
Nintendo Switch.
There we go.
Well, now it's like PS5.
See, like what? Anyways, they'll be like, oh, like I remember that time my mom, like, I don't know, gave me a hug. Like my mom, like, you know what I mean? So I feel like that's what people actually remember. Like even if you reflect on your own childhood, you're not thinking about the gifts you got.
Yeah.
So I think that's what really counts.
Yeah. That is what really counts.
I think if you're like picking a partner, you need to see like who you want your children to, like who you see your children. No, the other way around. I'm trying to say like someone that you can see your children in, or someone your children can see.
Okay.
I saw this question. It's like, if your child came out exactly like your partner, would you be happy?
Yeah.
And that answers the question.
Yeah,
that's good.
That's what I mean.
Quote that as well.
Yeah, so that's how I picked my partner, and I'm sure that's how you pick, because at the end of the day, like you want your child as they're growing, right? That person who will be instilling, appropriate morals in their lives, values. Again, we're Black people, right? Like I just have to say it, and it's not easy out here, especially for our Black boys. And so when I'm looking at a partner for myself, and I'm into a male, so if I'm looking for that, I want someone who'd be able to instill some proper values in that child, and someone that they can look up to, for the rest of their life. So if you can't see that with whoever you're deciding to have a child with, then that's concerning, because you don't want someone who's in and out of your child's life. That doesn't help. So that's how I picked my partner, and I think that helped me to decide, yes, I would like to have children, because I feel this person is responsible.
Yeah.
Right. And you're ready for children.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Mhm.
I'm ready.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thanks.
And that really ties into our next question. Okay, I kind of want to get into the topic of how some parental figures can quickly choose to have children without nurturing their relationship first. So do you think that there should be like a time limit on the time that you have children? Obviously, you have to be ready. But do you think that there's like a time that we can gauge? Like, do you need to like be with your children, be with your significant other for like a couple months, or like, is it more of like a
I think there's no time. I think like kind of what Vanessa said, like you would just like, I feel like if they have a good character, like, you know, if you have doubts or like you're like, I don't really want kids, but it's really because you just don't want kids with them, like I feel like that's you know, that tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, there's no time limit. Like you hear stories that people get married after months and they've been together for years, have so many children together, and their kids are all doing well and successful. And you hear people who have met each other and been together for so long prior to getting married, and then it's like it's still not going well for them, and things are not going well for maybe their kids. So it doesn't really matter in regards to time limit. I think as an individual, you'll know. Some people don't. But they're, you know, when you take the time to get to know somebody, whatever time you decide to do that, I think you as an individual get to a point where you're like, okay, I think this is the person I want to continue to be with.
And you'll never know. Sometimes people can be deceitful and you're like, oh gosh, this is not who
That's
I thought
another problem
That's
too,
true.
right? And so I think luck also plays a role in it, because sometimes
Yeah.
I'm like, I think I'm lucky, because I think when you hear other people's stories and you're like, oh, that's unfortunate, like even throughout this whole process of getting to know the person was able to, you know, give this facade of what they should be or could be for that person, and then you enter into this marriage, you have kids, and it's like, whoa, like you're totally the opposite.
And you know, sometimes even having children can bring out a whole new person.
It is true. It's true.
So,
it's so true.
Really, really good points. Yeah. Okay, I kind of want to talk about how society can better support unmarried parents. So how do you guys think society can support? Obviously by acknowledging the fact that it's not a bad thing to be unmarried and have children. So how else can you guys think of? Anything you can think of?
Yeah, like breaking stigma, bring back parenting other people's kids, because some people's kids, like I'll be at the grocery store and I'm like, knock it off.
Okay, but I'm sorry, but if you say something to my child, I might have to slap you. Like, it's just
But what if
the
they're like
audacity?
throwing stuff, and I'm not saying to
Let
spank them
me
or anything. I'm
control
not saying that at all. But like,
But what if you can't?
It's just you didn't give birth to that child. You did not hold him in your belly for 9 months for you to start parenting him. You know,
but
if you need help, you need help.
Yeah, like sometimes I'll like be watching kids in the store and I'm like, I was like, what are you gonna do about that?
You know what? I agree. Yeah, that's true. Parenting other people's children.
But like, obviously, to you know, I'm not gonna don't yell at other people's kids. And stuff. But like, sometimes you have to be like, hey, like, stop it. Like, you're clearly stressing out your mom or
a good
whoever. You know, because sometimes kids will take strangers more serious than their parents.
Yeah,
because it's like, oh, I don't know this person.
I was that kid. I was that kid. Whenever another parent, and it's so bad. Like, why do we do this? But whenever another parent tells me to act right, I immediately act right. Like, when it's my turn, I kind of have a little bit more room to wiggle.
I wonder if it has to do with, I don't know if it's your like similar in my culture, but it's like, oh, when an elder's talking to you, make sure you respect yourself. Don't embarrass me.
But like, my mom is an elder though. I don't know why. Like, I obviously respect my mom more than I would respect anyone else. But it's like when not a threat, but when something else comes from an external factor, it's so much more serious. I guess more because my mom and I were
close like that.
That's good. Okay, cool.
What were we even talking about?
I've lost myself, but I kind of wanted to get into the child's perspective. Okay, we've been talking about the parents, but now I want to know, do you think that unmarried parents versus married parents have an impact on the child's life?
Nah.
Unmarried parent.
I think because you can be married and be super toxic, constantly fighting.
That's true.
Raising a kid in a dysfunction. And so I think it's not about their relationship status. It's more about who they are as parents and like the household. Obviously people fight, you know what I mean, but like, you know, there's a line, right? Like if you guys are constantly fighting, constantly bickering in front of the kids all the time, you know, you guys fight to the point where the police comes, like married or not, like nobody, that's not a good household, or that's not, you know, that can feel like a not safe household for the kids. So
and that brings forth generational trauma as well.
And I think the other thing is like, how are they gonna know unless you kind of tell them the difference, right? And I think it depends on like, maybe if they're, you know, you to go to school and then your friends like, oh, your parents are not married, or my parents are married, then we're like, oh, okay, like I guess there's a difference. But if that doesn't really come up, like I think nowadays kids, once they're in the home with two parents, they automatically assume their parents are married. Like they don't really know.
They don't know the difference.
Yeah. So I don't think it really matters. I think like you said, right? If there's conflict all the time, you know your kids, it doesn't matter what age, you're gonna be like, yo, you need to separate. Like this is toxic. But if that's not the case and there's love in the home, I don't think it really matters.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. Once again, it's just the legal combining.
Exactly.
And the thing is that the legal stuff, like you can also happen outside marriage. Like common laws pretty much have the same rights, which a lot of people don't know. So watch your pockets. So you've been living with someone for 3 years, like they're entitled to a lot of things as well. So
What about go ahead.
I was gonna say, even if like for instance, if you're a step parent and you're parenting, you know, a child and you've been in that household for some years, you are considered that child's parent, right? So that's also something to consider. It doesn't matter whether you're biological or not, but if you've been there for some time, like there are legal pieces to that too.
And also kudos again to the step parents out there, because they are the parents that stepped up. I like that. But also I wanted to talk about, what about when there's one parent who's not in the life of the child? Do you think that has an impact on the child?
For sure. Like, you know, I think that can definitely feel like maybe I think it depends. There's context, right? Whether they were there and then left, or were they were never there at all. Right. So it really depends. So like, but I could, like, you know, that's fair. I feel like that could, you know, play an impact. But I think that, you know, having a loving home doesn't like wash away everything, but it definitely helps. What's the word? Like it helps soften things. I feel like it makes things better.
Yeah. I think the difficult part is having a parent that is in and out of your life. Like one minute they're visiting, the next minute they're not. You don't see them for months, and then they come back. I think that's really traumatic and really impacts the child. That's my perspective. I think everybody's experiences is different. I find that for me, I would see that as more traumatic and more painful than if they weren't even in my life at all. But yeah, I think,
you know what, I really like how you said that, because I've grown up with my dad barely in my life, and it's got like, I don't know how to say it, but like I see my mom as both parents. Like it's never ever occurred to me like, oh, I don't have a dad. Oh no, you know, like I'm so sad every day. I have no trauma at all, because my mom has took the step to become both parents for me and teach me from both perspectives, you know? So it also depends on the one parent. Like, are you able to bring forth both ideologies that you're supposed to get from a father and a mother, or mother and a mother, father and a father? So definitely depends on, and it also like you said, when the father or mother is there and then they decide to leave later on, that is pretty traumatic, you know? That's horrible, as opposed to like where like they were never there in the beginning, because you kind of grow accustomed to it, you know? Whereas you're kind of building this relationship with your father and then, or your mother, and then boom, they're gone. Like, that's very traumatic. So
that's definitely my experience of the in and out, right? So I had that experience and it wasn't fun. And I think sometimes some people, it's difficult for them to understand, because it's like, but yours was there. Like there were days where we did see him there. So like, why is it? And it's just like, they're there, but they're not really there, right? And so it really impacts you in a certain way. But anyways, like, you know, kudos to my mom. She did well and doing well. So yeah.
Amazing. I think that pretty much wraps it up for this podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. That was amazing. I feel like we got so many good topics and we brought out so many good ideas that the viewers can hopefully take home with them. Is there anything else you guys would like to say?
No,
that's it. Just make sure to listen to our other episodes.
Listen to all our other episodes, and we're gonna have much more episodes coming.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Yay.